Well, hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Movie News. We are back as a duo. I'm your co-host Stephen John McLaughlin, joined as ever with other co-host John C. Walsh, who has been carrying the can for the last fortnight. John, you've really steadied the ship while I've been on paternity leave.
Yes.
For the arrival of my second daughter, Charlotte. So I am in a permanent permo at the moment, so I may slip up, I may slur my words. I'm struggling with sleep at the moment. I've got the bags under my eyes, so I'm going to do my best, but I thought...
And what better to jump into when you're on a permo trip?
Watch WandaVision.
WandaVision.
Yeah,
which is like a permo trip.
Yeah, exactly. I watched it again and I still don't understand it, but we'll get into that in a moment. That's obviously the headline on today's show, tonight's show, whenever you're watching it, on YouTube and of course on Twitch as well. Anyway, we're going to move on.
Whoa!
Come on, Twitch guys.
What is this?
Help us out here. But
I've got to pull up.
Okay, I didn't see that there. I don't press the buttons on this show, so that's not my fault.
You know what, Stephen? I'm just going to delete that image off of Streamlabs because it's completely irrelevant now. So I'll let you continue on.
I am, John, and I think first and
Christ.
foremost, here in the UK, we're 16 hours behind everyone else that's done a trailer reaction. We have done our trailer reaction for this prior to this show, which we will put out very shortly. Both of us liked the trailer, I would like to say. It's something very different to what we're used to in the MCU, certainly. Definitely in the Marvel comics as well. But it kind of gives a more an insight to what is going to be happening in this show, certainly from the visuals, and who's going to be appearing in it. Some well-known faces in there as well, which we will get into, John, but it's probably...
Peters was in there.
Yeah,
official.
Yeah, but I think we will have obviously the trailer playing in the background as we were discussing this, John. We were going to do a kind of a breakdown based on the Screen Rant article.
What's going on?
And yeah, I'll let you play with that at the moment, John. And here was me thinking I was the one going to fuck up, but here we go.
Streamlabs comes along and saves the day.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, we were going to do the breakdown because I think the first opening shot obviously is this just married thing. And the first kind of vibes I was getting of this was obviously, like you mentioned in the trailer reaction we did, the sort of Pleasantville, which is loosely based on obviously sitcoms from that era, the 1950s, Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, that kind of thing. And that was the kind of opening shot you're getting, the just married thing, this black and white 1950s sitcom kind of feel to it. You also get the canned audience, I noticed as well, which I thought it could have came across as being very tacky, but it actually works in this. The feel to this is very strange as well.
You know what,
some
very
surreal moments. I think you should, John, and it means we can watch it as well while we're discussing things, and we'll pause it at key moments. So there's the just married bit, John. What was your initial thoughts on the opening sort of...
Well, I'll bring it back, Stephen.
First few 10 seconds, I would say, of this trailer. Stephen,
the actual audio right away, it brings you into that sort of 50s era TV show, and you're right, you get some visual Easter eggs just splattered around this trailer, really. And that's the real first one, the actual just married. She's fictionalised this other universe where obviously she's trying to escape the grief of losing someone she loved very dearly, aka Paul Bettany's Vision character. And this is how she's done it. She has them married in the 1950s. Clearly born in Russia, I want to say.
Sokovia,
Yeah, Sokovia. Oh, it's kind of fake Russia, isn't it? They can't really say Russia. And obviously she's been watching all of these movies or these TV shows, retro United States TV shows, and she's sort of factored up this world. That's the word I'm going to use, using those memories, and you see it there. It's just so faithfully recreated. I don't know what the 720p is all about. I downloaded a 1080p version, so when I jump back out of this, I will bring up the full HD version because that's shit. But yeah, I love that shot, and I love the little early cue that they are indeed married in this fictionalised other universe that she's factored up. But I don't know what your thoughts were on the car as well, Stephen. Again, how did they get their hands on these retro cars like that, man?
And clearly from the silhouettes you can see who they are as well. And it looks like Wanda's got a wedding dress on, like a veil, I think, anyway. Either that, she's the one in the bowler hat, I'm not sure. But we'll move on, John, to this is the one that sort of stood out for me, is obviously the Mind Stone. You can see it there, just at the side. Now, it's interesting because Screen Rant picked up on this as well in their breakdown. In regards to, we know where it came from. You know, it was the stone that Wanda originally got her powers from. When it was still Loki's inside Loki's scepter. So it makes sense that it does return in this sort of form. Even though Screen Rant do say it's just a copy created by Wanda rather than the real thing. I don't know how they know that.
They don't.
It's not even saying perhaps, or they're surmising. They're actually saying that that's the case.
I think they're underestimating Scarlet Witch too, Stephen. The supremely powerful character in this Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's seen it when she took on Thanos. She nearly beat him. So very powerful. I wouldn't put it past her somehow getting her hands on another Mind Stone from perhaps another universe or something. That this is going to be the multiverse.
Well, everything reset itself, John, after the events of Endgame.
So perhaps she's got her hands on it. Maybe she's just somehow.
Did you notice a little thing on the door as well? Just above her head. It's in the same shape.
It's the Mind Stone. So that's a very neat little Easter egg. That the Mind Stone is obviously a powerfully potent memory in her mind. She tried to sort of take it out of him, I believe, before Thanos got his hands on him. Thanos just reset time and took it right out of him anyway. So it's obviously something that's been a potent, lasting memory, and she's again got it on the door. So that's her final moments with Vision, and she's bringing it back. So again, it's just all about grief, Stephen. We'll see that later on in the trailer as well. There's another moment, a double entendre with a bottle of wine. Hints at a really important part in Scarlet Witch's lineage or history. Lineage and history, because it involves her kids in the comic books where she was absolutely destroyed by grief and went into madness.
I think the next scene, John, just highlights it's just brief that she's still got her powers anyway. I think we'll see that in a little moment.
A lovely kissing shot too.
There's quite a lot of that, a lot of dialogue as well.
There you go.
That's
She's
great.
Changed them. Yeah. And I loved that little head turn. It was, Stephen, that put me in mind of almost like the what was it? It was either the Scarecrow or the Cowardly Lion who'd done that, and was it the voice done a little thing like that? Almost Ringo Starr-esque as well when he was drumming. Little head twirl. And it was very neat the way you're seeing the little magic dust around him. This is a fantasy setting, and she must be aware on some level that this is a fantasy setting that isn't reality, and that she's manipulating things all around her. But part of me maybe feels that it isn't in her mind, that she's in a dark place, and perhaps she isn't aware of the fact she's subtly changing things. I don't know. We'll find out when we see it. But it's very cool.
So
very,
we'll just
very cool. I ain't seen a
bit.
TV show like this in my life.
No, it's very strange. But there's the nosy neighbour. There we go. This is the scene. This is the shot I'm talking about, John. This is her using her powers, obviously. So obviously she's still, although she's dreaming of a normal life, her powers are still slipping into obviously this this performance, if you like.
Little candlestick flies across during the discourse at the table, and there is that wine shot, Stephen.
Well, this is the thing,
and it
John,
has double meanings.
I'm going to actually bring that up because it's the House of M. Wine, isn't it? I'm going to just read this word for word because I think
not at all.
This
I'll
shot
fire up the article if I can as well, but I think we've lost it. Shit.
I'll just read it anyway, John. This shot shows Wanda using her powers to pour a bottle, I think it means pour a bottle, of Maison de Mépris wine, which seems very romantic unless you speak a little French. Mépris is French for contempt, a clear indication that something isn't quite right. More importantly, Maison de means house of, and the label pointing has an M emblazed on the neck. House of M was a crossover event in the Marvel Comics in which Scarlet Witch went mad with grief after losing 2 children she had created with magic from the shards of the demon Mephisto. She used her powers to alter the fabric of reality so that her children would return to her with far greater ramifications. Though she's grieving a little loss in the MCU, it looks like WandaVision will be loosely based on the House of M. So these are things, John, that you're, devout comic book readers are going to pick up on these things. For ourselves, I wouldn't have noticed that. I'll be honest with you. I was more interested in the visuals, if I'm being honest, and picking up the fact that she is using her powers in this television show as well. What do you make of that? I mean, it's quite an interesting thing that someone's picked up. I don't know how obvious it is. I think if you're right into the comics, John, I think it's probably fairly obvious.
I think, again, this is just classic Kevin Feige, Steve, and he does treat the fan base with respect, unlike Star Wars and Lucasfilm and whatnot over the other division of Disney, where they treat their fans with a complete lack of respect, contempt, as they suggest this has a double meaning within the bottle. I think he knows that there's a core fan base there who have grown up reading these comics who will have insight into this character's history, into little things like this, the House of M, where she lost the plot essentially because of grief over her kids dying. Yeah. And he's flung that in there as a nice little nod. I fundamentally believe this TV show will have so many nods like this throughout the course of how many episodes there is. I'm still, even at this time, I'm not sure how many episodes we're getting, but I do believe it'll be absolutely packed to the rafters with Easter eggs, characters, little knowing nods to the comic book lore, just all sorts of things seeping in. And we will get Doctor Strange coming in at the end to have to sort of rescue her from this madness. Yeah. Potentially bring back Vision to the MCU too. I sincerely hope Paul Bettany isn't done. That this character isn't finished, because he's such a cool character. And they've got such great chemistry together, both the actors and the characters on the screen. So I think it's going to be packed with this.
You hit on it there, about Vision. I don't think we've seen enough of him at his full capabilities. No. Yeah, we got to see him in the Age of Ultron. We saw what he was capable of with his powers, and since then it's been really just bits here and there. Yeah. We really need to bring this character back in some fashion, because he's such a cool character. Paul Bettany's a fantastic actor as well. I always thought this was going back to the early days of the MCU. Having Paul Bettany as the voice of Jarvis was a waste. Yeah. Obviously, it was playing in a bigger part later on in that universe, and it paid off so well. But he's more than that, and I think we've got to the stage where we want to see more of the character. I think it was necessary that he had to sacrifice. Well, he didn't sacrifice himself. He was murdered twice, by Thanos.
Yes, Vision, more than most characters in the MCU, had a real shit end to life, because he get killed once, came back, and then get killed in even worse fashion. Yeah. So someone at the creative division in Marvel Disney really had it in for Paul Bettany and Vision. They clearly disliked that little red pepperoni guy.
It was brutal, John. I mean, the way Thanos just put his fingers right into his forehead and pulled that stone out.
Don't give a shit about this guy.
Just disregarded him. I think he was like grey, wasn't he? His face was all grey. But I want to see him back. In any way they can do it. I don't care how they do it, but this seems to be the best way of doing it. We're going to move on, John. I think the next bit is the sort of dining scene, isn't it?
It's a sort of pampering, not peppering is the correct word, with questions.
We get to see Deborah Jo Rupp, I think her name is, from that 70s show. She was also in Friends. This chap as well, I think it's Arthur, his name is, played by Fred Mellam.
The head of hair is Paul Bettany got to. It's absolutely superb.
It's better than Arthur's.
I feel like there's definitely symbolism to this tie as well. I don't know what the symbolism is. There's a little logo in there. Yeah. I feel like there's something symbolic with this tie going on. Yeah. And I'm sure someone with greater knowledge of the comics will illuminate it.
What is it this guy says again? I mean, I've only seen the trailer twice. So
how did you meet? Where are you from?
Yeah.
Or when? And he stamps his hand on the table very aggressively. They don't have answers.
No.
Vision certainly doesn't have any answers, because he's just a figment of her imagination. She's in this semi-depraved, crazy multiverse that she's factored up. Yeah. And she has no answers either, because she's delusional. Yeah. You can see it there. She's looking at him. She doesn't want to admit it's all a figment of her imagination. She wants to grasp on to this reality. She's lost. Yeah.
That shot, John, just as they came out of the dining scene, is very cool visually. We'll just see that in a moment.
That flicker here, fantastic.
This bit
see
here,
it flickering back there too.
This is a bit I like. Yeah. It's just the way that the visuals in this
put
part
me in mind of the what is it? David Frost, the Beatles.
Yeah.
When he says "Are we in colour?" No, we're still in black and white, guys. And then it turns to colour because they shot it in colour and black and white. Yeah. Back then it was only in black and white. Us watching the anthology, we got to see it change to colour.
It's very interesting, because in the article it says that this time they're planting herself in Vision in a 1980s TV show instead, complete with colour and new aspect ratio. That was the other thing I picked up on.
Yeah, it changed. That was very cool. It was almost Lighthouse.
Yeah, reminiscent of 80s sitcoms like Full House. I'm not familiar with that, John, but this is the bit that made us laugh in the trailer reaction, wasn't it?
Fantastic, man.
What is that he's wearing as well?
It's like a sort of polo shirt.
Yeah.
Going on, but it's I think it's a Fred Perry polo shirt as well.
It's just
in fact, he's got that.
looks very odd.
Got a golden watch on.
I think as well because Paul
that.
Bettany has got these quite, I don't want to say big eyes. They're, you know, you can see the whites of his eyes a mile away.
Yeah.
Also his teeth. He's got magnificent teeth. So when he's got that kind of red, maroon face, these sort of things highlight a little bit more, but the babies, the twins as well. John, what's your take on this?
Stephen, first and foremost, my take on how they're going to structure this as well, because it's starting in the 1950s. I hope this isn't haphazard. The jeans as well, stonewashed jeans, crazy. He's got the sort of lumberjack flannel shirt on as well. He sports it well. He's a very tall guy. He sports clothes very well. He's almost
massive,
borderline model. I think he's like 6'3" or something. He's absolutely gigantic. But I just hope they get that period, the interspersing of the different eras handled correctly, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure it'll be episodic. There'll be a change to the 80s in maybe episode 2 or 3. I hope they hang around in the 50s for a while. I like that aspect ratio. I like the black and white. But when we do get to the 80s, you see it there, Stephen. It's accurately recreated. I wouldn't know. I was born in 89. Very
kind of reeks of the 80s. I think you see that from the shot of the neighbour, John. It's Catherine Hahn again, but she's obviously more in 80s get up. I feel like it's like kind of
borderline coming.
It's like the leg warmers and stuff like that.
Can't even get it to work, Stephen.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's a very short jump, John. Anyway, but she's basically dressed up like someone from Fame.
Yeah.
But it's a great shot, and it kind of shows you what era they're going into.
Don't know what to make about the baby, Stephen, as you did ask. Though I think that may be alluding to House of M again.
Yeah.
She had 2 children. They died. It left her grief ridden, I'm going to say, struck with sort of grief, despondent. She went into madness. I think that's again just a nod to that sort of House of M. She's in the House of M.
Now,
She's
this
mad.
sequence, John, what do you make of this?
Loved it.
It's a Halloween sequence, isn't it?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, you've got him getting up just now. He's actually getting up in full-on vision mode.
Yeah.
He's floating. This is him becoming semi-aware of his surroundings. The nosy neighbour again, she's in the sort of trance-like state. He touches her. I think she asks, "Am I dead?" And he says, "No, why would you say that?" She says, "Because you are," and starts laughing. I love that, man. That's a sort of...
The tone
as
changed.
If he's not aware.
Yeah, the tone changed in the...
It's like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I think the tone changed at this point in the trailer as well, John.
Yeah.
From that kind of light sort of comedy.
And again, she's wearing a strange hat. It's almost...
I think it's a witch's outfit.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I think she's, because it's Halloween, she's dressed up as a witch.
That's what it is.
And then this is I think this is the thumbnail you use for the trailer reaction.
And again, Mind Stone getting on again there. That reminded me of a character. I can't recall why, but it did. It gave me vibes of some comic book character, maybe a character from a TV show. He looks as though he's got a traffic cone on. He said it's like the Gallery of Modern Art in Glasgow here, where we put a traffic cone on the horseman statue. That's what it looks like. Strange. Stranger.
Well, it says it's a classic look for Vision. This previously teased WandaVision shows a treat from Marvel Comics fans in the form of Wanda wearing her classic Scarlet Witch costume in the form of a Halloween costume. The new trailer for WandaVision reveals that Scarlet Witch won't be alone in her retro look, as Vision has adopted a rather hokey version of the traditional costume from the comics. It's a pretty good look. Maybe if he'd worn this in the fight against Thanos, he wouldn't have died.
Yeah, Stephen, it's a very cool look, man. I have to say, again, that's just what we touched upon. Paying respect to the fan base, paying respect to the comic book fans. They're not just glossing over that fandom for a new era of fans like they did with... I keep getting back to Star Wars, but can you tell I'm bitter about it?
Yeah.
They completely discarded people who were fans of the original trilogy. They didn't give a shit about them. Pandered to a new era of fans who didn't care about Star Wars, didn't grow up watching it.
No.
That's not what they do at Marvel. And that's not what Kevin Feige believes in. He's a guy who's a fan of the canon, the lore. I was about to say core. I combined the two. I've done that earlier on today as well. Combined 2 words. That's a famous thing from me. I like to do that a lot. But he's a fan of the lore. He understands it, and he understands what the fans want. He understands the fans also understand it. I'm getting down to inception levels of converse here. But yeah, absolutely. That's a great little Easter egg nod back again to the original OG Vision character. I love it. Absolutely love it, man.
John, the fabric, if I can say it right, of reality is the next shot. This is if this just comes up, I think this is probably one of the last sort of shots.
Is that one there where she's changing?
It's a sort of a bluey grey background. This one here.
Yeah, she's
I
sort
wasn't
of
really
forcing
sure
someone.
what this was, but the bubble finally bursts towards the end of a WandaVision trailer when we see Monica Rambeau being forcibly hurled out of the reality that Scarlet Witch has created and back into the real world. This offers an idea of what Scarlet Witch may have done, not changing the entire world, but commandeering the town of Westview and turning it into her own personal dollhouse. That's an interesting way to look at
That's
it.
very
Probably
interesting.
it's a good description as well.
I think that's bang on.
Of course, the universe can probably only sustain a completely different reality within itself for a while before things start to go badly wrong, John. This reminds me of an X-Files episode, the one with the Brady Bunch. It was one of John Doggett's last episodes.
Yeah, the reality changed within the house.
Yeah. It does.
Very
it does
creepy, man.
It was a very
creepy as hell.
Yeah, and we get into that shot. It's called the perimeter. Outside the boundaries of WandaVision world, we see what looks like a military perimeter set with the intention of containing Scarlet Witch's magic and attempting to break her hold on reality. And then we get to see Monica Rambeau. I'm pretty sure that's how you say the name, all grown up. One of the most exciting parts of WandaVision's cast of characters is Monica Rambeau, played by Akira Akbar as a child in Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's amazing.
That.
So this is the adult Monica.
That's brilliant.
Is played by Toyota Paris. Monica at one point carried the Captain Marvel Monica in the Marvel comics and has a power set similar to Carol's. She seems to survive being hurled out of Scarlet Witch's reality without being too phased. I noticed that as well. She didn't look too perplexed about it. So it's probably that she's already had her powers when WandaVision begins. Alternatively, we may actually be seeing the moment when Scarlet Witch's magic gives Monica her first set of superpowers.
That's very cool. And again,
either way, it works for me.
And introducing a sort of new superhero to the MCU, and this is again why it's so vital to watch these TV shows. A lot of people turn their nose up at the concept of the MCU expanding out into a new medium, into a new platform. I'm not watching that crap. Well, you'll have to if you want to keep up with the MCU, because you're getting new characters. And I hope Evan Peters as Quicksilver is another one.
Well, this is the thing.
Hope we introduce new variations of characters. Not to say that I hated the Aaron Taylor Johnson one. No. I certainly like that guy. He's an actor. He's a great actor. Love him in Kick-Ass. A whole array of different movies. Out of the two of them,
I think he's a better actor.
Yeah, but he was better than Quicksilver.
Roles, he was a better.
And
I think his role was written better as well, John. Yeah,
it's just a great way. He brings a sort of humour to the character too. Something about the Taylor Johnson one, it just wasn't as good.
No.
But he will bring... that will be a nice way to bring him in, a way that's organic from a different universe, if indeed that is the case. Maybe completely making it up. It may just be a little nod to the fact that, there's your original Quicksilver, here he is, playing a different character again. Strange, but I don't know. But
John, just before we move on, just to let people know that our trailer reaction for that will be going up after this live show at some point tonight, early hours of tomorrow. But we'll move on, John, to the next topic. It's all about Eddie Redmayne confirms filming has started on Fantastic Beasts 3, not Beats. Fantastic Beasts 3 starts production after a long delay, and star Eddie Redmayne discusses the challenges of shooting during a pandemic. Now, this is not something we've not read or seen before from other actors and other films productions. It's not any different here. Set to serve as the middle of a planned 5 movie franchise, the third entry in the Fantastic Beasts saga has faced numerous delays. Initially, the production was put on hold so the script could be polished. Eventually, the film was set to start shooting in London, but the production was among the many to be delayed worldwide due to the pandemic. However, when coronavirus restrictions on filmings were lifted in the UK in May, Fantastic Beasts 3 still remained on hold. Luckily for fans, Eddie Redmayne confirmed to Cinema Blend that filming has started production as of 2 weeks ago in London. Like most film resuming production, Warner Brothers has the cast and crew under strict coronavirus protocols. Apart from Robert Pattinson, that is. Something Redmayne was initially worried about.
Don't want to know either.
And this is what Redmayne had to say. He said, it's a whole new normal testing frequency mask, and I wondered actually whether the mask would affect creativity in some ways. Maybe that was a bit ignorant, but I just thought, as humans, do we need interaction to spark from each other? What is really reassuring is that it's a different process, but it still feels like it's fizzing and that everyone is working at the top of their game. So that's good to hear, John. I think as well, Eddie Redmayne, he's not really getting into the ins and outs of obviously what's happening behind the scenes. It's more about the process and
Yeah.
the situation they're in, obviously, with this pandemic hovering over us still. But it's not any different to any of the productions that we've talked about in the past, i.e. the Batman, etc. But it's good to see that it looks like everyone, as he says in his own words, are all working to the top of their game. It's a fantastic cast, John. Bit of controversy with some of the actors and some of the writers as well from the franchise, but we'll not really get down to that.
No,
sort of
we're not
level.
touching J.K. Rowling with a basketball.
No, we certainly won't, John. But you are a fan, I would like to say, of maybe the first one more than the second film, but you accepted it for what it was. It was the second part of a bigger story, and you were willing to give it a chance once you obviously seen the 5 films.
Absolutely, Stephen. It was a filler movie. It was a movie which was setting up various strands of different stories, various strands of new characters, returning characters. It was necessary. It gave us more of Johnny Depp's Grindelwald character too.
Yeah.
Early inklings of the chemistry and the relationship between him and obviously the Jude Law, Albus Dumbledore character too. It done enough. It wasn't a great movie. It was a little bit haphazard, a little bit slow in places. Never really was as exciting as the first one, where Eddie Redmayne was just brilliant as this sort of bumbling, borderline nervous, introverted Newt Scamander character. But you still had Dan Fogler in there as, I think it's Kowalski or something like that, and you had Ezra Miller's Credence Barebones too. I enjoyed the first one. I didn't hate the second one. I'm really looking forward to the third one, I have to say, and I'm glad to see they're finally shooting again. How long they will be shooting though is another thing entirely, because with this whole coronavirus shit show starting to pop back up again, and the likes of Matt Hancock and the bumbling Boris Johnson going over to Perugia, or whatever you call it, to have a fling with some Russian bint. I mean, this is the guys that are in charge over here, and Nicola Sturgeon, thank God, a little bit better, but even then, she's kind of following him. So how long will we see productions like this continue on? If it gets really, really bad again, we could see them getting shut down again. So hopefully this is not going to be the case. We're finally getting the movie shot, and it gets allowed to finish to its natural conclusion. I find it very interesting what he says though, the whole chemistry. Do you need, or would it still work with the masks, because do you need interaction and dialogue to make things work? And that's very interesting, because we've seen that in actual wider society too. Things changing. People don't really want to talk to other people so much now. Strangers, if you're out walking your dog or something like that, or you're out, people kind of give you a wide berth now because they're concerned that you may give them a virus or something. Or maybe it's just my dog. He is 40.5 kilos of pure muscle, an absolute monster, a Schwarzenegger Labrador. So perhaps that's what it is. But I see what he means. Things are changing. The way we operate in the wider world's changing. There's a lot less conversation. There's a lot less just is that okay?
Interaction.
Interaction. I was about to say something else. Yeah.
I know you there. That's why I jumped in.
In the wider reality of this COVID pandemic. So it's nice to see that that's sort of something that's trickling down to these stars behind the scenes shooting these big productions, but it's not that much of an issue. There's still a bit of fizz there. It's still
John,
people working at the top of their game in a very different situation.
That's the thing, and I don't think we've touched on this, since this pandemic came about, is chemistry. We don't really think about that as audience members until we see the final product. I think from an actor's point of view, though, it's essential that the chemistry is there for scenes to work. So it's good to see that he's saying that, and it's good to see. But they're professionals at the end of the day. You just got to look at the cast members to know that these actors have been around for a good part of 2-3 decades now. Chemistry is very important in any film, and having that interaction with actors, with their characters in certain scenes, has to have that sort of vibe to it that that just clicks. But it's good to see Eddie Redmayne saying everyone's just
cracking on
with it, and that's
and Johnny Depp's there.
Yeah, well, John, I don't want to talk about obviously Johnny Depp and J.K. Rowling in the sense of what's going down at the moment, but what I will talk about is how much of an impact this is going to have, obviously, on this film's release as well. By the time it comes out, is it all? I don't want to say water under the bridge. That's very ignorant. What I mean is that what's the old saying? The newspaper, it's the chip wrapper. it's yesterday's news, basically.
You don't ask me about saying, Stephen.
But you know what I mean? It's you know, by the time this comes out, do you think a lot of this?
Yesterday's news, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it will. No, I think this will just rumble on and on and on. Amber Heard will not give up, and Johnny Depp will not give up. They hate each other, and they're going after each other very vehemently. So I think it will rumble on. As the point this movie actually is shot, post is done, and it releases, then it will be done. The actual libel, the lawsuit. But Lord knows, man. If God forbid Johnny Depp actually loses, then people will be after him, man. They'll not want him back as Grindelwald. Thankfully, though, I don't think that will happen, because I firmly believe Johnny is on the correct side. I'm not getting into it.
No.
And regardless, I don't believe J.K. Rowling would bow down anyway, so I think she'd just keep him as the actor regardless. Yeah. And I think a lot of people would agree with her on that, even if they don't agree with her other comments. And I'm not getting into that because...
Yeah. Tomorrow's chip paper.
What's she doing?
Tomorrow's chip paper, John. I think that's the saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we'll move on, John. We're going to move away from the controversy of J.K. Rowling and Johnny Depp. We're going to get into talking about Mel Gibson. We're gluttons for punishment on here. But, John, this is something very interesting. It's not about Mel Gibson, essentially. It's about, obviously, a sequel to a very massive film from 16 years ago. And it's all about actor Jim Caviezel.
Yeah.
Star of great films like Frequency, and obviously The Passion of Christ. He obviously Jesus Christ in this film, John. I only watched this film once. I thought it was an amazing film. Christ. Very powerful, very emotional as well. Especially if you come from a certain faith, which I'm not getting to, John. But I think people can get things out of films anyway, regardless of that. But actor Jim Caviezel says that The Passion of Christ sequel is moving forward 16 years after the biblical drama was released. The first film was produced, co-written and directed by actor Mel Gibson, told the story of the final 12 hours before Jesus' death. Now the franchise looks to set to return, with star Caviezel confirming that the sequel title, The Passion of the Christ Resurrection, was still in the works. Mel Gibson, he said, this was him saying this, Mel Gibson just sent me the third picture, the third draft. It's coming. The actor who plays Jesus told Brightheart it's called The Passion of the Christ Resurrection. It's going to be the biggest film in world history. Now, wow. Now, John, the original Passion of the Christ film was a box office hit, as we know. It made over £485 million globally. Whatever that is in dollars, I'm not sure. It holds the record for being both the highest grossing Christian film of the time and the highest grossing R-rated film in the US history. Now, I'm not going to get into the polarised critical response to this film, John. That's each to their own as far as I'm concerned. You get what you want out of these films. But what I will say, Jim Caviezel is a fantastic actor, John. I've not heard too much about him in the last decade or so, surprisingly. I don't know if this film had a kind of an effect on his career after that. I'm not saying...
Well, he's done movies, but...
He's done movies, John, but nothing to that height.
But not enough. He done Paul, Apostle of Christ, so he loves going back to that character, clearly. I don't know who he played in that movie. Yeah, Steve, this is intriguing. I says to you, obviously we are from a particular faith. We're not going to announce which faith it is, but it's a strand of Christianity, let's just say. And I'm not a practicing member of said faith, so I'm not acutely aware of the inner machinations of said holy book. It's been a long, long time since I've read said holy book, and I was forced to read it when I was at school, and I don't know the actual events which transpired after Jesus resurrected. So I'm not entirely sure how much scope there is in a sequel of this movie. I know the man's backstory, what led to his crucifixion, if that's the correct
John,
word.
I thought the same as The Great Escape 2. I didn't think there was a lot of story there after the original film, you know.
So where do you go? But if there is, look, again, I'm not an expert on the inner machinations of the Bible, the Holy Bible. There may be a lot to work with. I wasn't even aware. You says to me there was 3 days or something that transpired after. I know he came back. The stone rolled away. He came out. He met with his faithful disciples. I think Paul in particular passed the Holy Ghost on to him. That was sort of, I'm not going to be here, but I'll pass my spirit to you, and you can go out and spread it to the world. There's a lot of metaphors in that book. How much of it was actually true, up for debate. A lot of people believe it's just a sort of guide to live your life by, and look, who am I to say one way or the other? But if it is indeed the case that there's at least 3 days of story, then I'm sure it was a packed 3 days. The man came back, he did what he had to do. And if that's going to be put to screen, then I can't think of anyone better to do it, Stephen, than Mel Gibson. I know he's controversial. I know he's said some really stupid things. Sugar Tits, I think, was one that Ricky Gervais in particular made really famous on the... I think the Golden Globe. It wasn't the Golden Globes, that other one. It may have been the Golden Globes.
I think it was, yeah.
I know he's controversial, but when it comes to directing, the guy is a fantastic director. I loved Hacksaw Ridge. I believe that was his last one.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, finally remember the name, Hugo Weaving, a whole host of amazing actors, brilliant story. Really, he makes movies, Stephen, which move you inside. Even Braveheart, factually, historically accurate though it was, it makes you move. The score itself, it brings things to the surface within you. And you were right about Passion of Christ. It was the exact same. I remember watching it, a thoroughly brutal movie.
Yeah.
And it made you emotional. And I'm not the most religious guy, but when you see what this poor chap had to get through, he sacrificed himself and his mind for others and their sins. It was a special movie, and it was full to the brim with emotion, and it was a special script. And if this guy thinks it's fitting to do a sequel to this, then who am I to argue with him? And if the story's there and the actor Jim Caviezel wants to come back and it's going to be handled correctly, you know it's going to divide people. They'll come out and say it's anti-Semitic again. You know my thoughts on that. I don't believe the story of Jesus Christ is anti-Semitic. I believe that it's the story of Jesus Christ as written in that book, and rightly or wrongly, whether it's correct or not, he just faithfully adapted said story. I'm not going to go into his thoughts because that's a dodgy road. I don't agree with his thoughts, but the actual story itself I don't believe is anti-Semitic, and therefore the actual sequel wouldn't be anti-Semitic. It's just the nature of things.
It's not from the mind of Mel Gibson, the story, John.
This
is the thing
movies like this delving into religious stories.
You're going to divide, John.
But
one of the things that I remember from this film's release, certainly here in Scotland, was that even people that weren't religious took an interest in this film because it was a Mel Gibson film. It was starring the lead man Jim Caviezel as Jesus Christ, and the brutality and what he experienced in this film as well got people into the cinema, regardless if you're a practicing Catholic or whatever. It got people in. That's why it grossed what it did, worldwide, 480 odd million or whatever it was, because people were interested in the story. It's a story that everyone knows to an extent.
Told in Ben-Hur to an extent too.
Yeah,
people love historical epics.
But
they love it.
Never. Robert Powell did a very good adaptation of Jesus Christ in the late 70s, early 80s, I believe, which is still held highly regarded as a great performance. But this was the first sort of adaptation from those events, those 12 hours or whatever it was, with a budget, a very large budget, and a very highly regarded and well respected director at the time. Fantastic actor as Mel Gibson was. He's equally a fantastic director as well. Jim Caviezel, who is a practicing Catholic, I remember reading about that. He was very passionate.
What an honour.
If you pardon the pun, very passionate into playing that role. He really wanted that role, and he got the role. And I thought he was amazing in it as well. The fact it was performed in Latin, as I believe. I might be wrong. I can't remember. But
I think it was, Steve.
Yeah.
I think there was definitely some foreign language stuff going on.
Well, I might not be Latin then. It might have been that, whatever dialogue it was for that era. But I thought it was a great adaptation. I'd taken myself away from the religious aspects. Cinematically, it was an amazing looking film.
Yeah.
It was a well acted film. And the score as well, as I recall, I can't remember who did the score, John. I'm not really what I really get into it, but just everything about it was a high. It was just what can I say? It was just well presented. It was something I'd never seen from that sort of story before. I've seen television adaptations, like I said, but nothing to this level.
John Debney done the score, Steve. Yeah. He's done the likes of Liar Liar and the Jungle Book, so a varied guy. You're right, it had everything, and it had everything for different demographics. Certainly here in Scotland, there have been a lot of certain demographics absolutely cheering on Pontius Pilate, and that would have brought them into the theatres for nothing else.
Well, this is the thing, I think...
Terrible.
I'm going to ask you, John, do you think that if this sequel is made, do you think it will have... do you think it'll have the same kind of reaction? Sequels to these kind of things don't normally work.
No.
And I think it
It's
just
like Braveheart too.
Yeah.
It didn't work. They get the same actor back. I don't know, man. I don't think so, Stephen. I think it was lightning in a bottle. I think people have moved on now. I think society's moved on. We're not very religious as a whole now. We've turned into sort of pagans, if you like. And I don't think there's enough demand there from the movie-going audience to go and make this a box office success. You then factor in the fact that Mel Gibson being so controversial now. He wasn't back then. I think it's doomed to fail, really. You've seen another, I think it was Joaquin Phoenix and someone else done a...
Mary Magdalene.
Mary Magdalene done a sort of similar concept set in the historical biblical times, and just died, man. It wasn't a success. So, facing an uphill battle.
Yeah, we're going to move on.
I hope it succeeds.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see if it actually comes to anything, but Jim Caviezel seems to think it is, but I suppose we'll just have to keep our fingers on the pulse with that one. But Doctor Strange 2 should bring Miles Morales to the MCU. Doctor Strange 2's multiverse is the perfect opportunity for bringing Miles Morales to the MCU and setting him up as Sony's Spider-Verse hero. We talked about this, John, a few weeks ago. It was a good way of setting him up so that obviously Sony could then take the character into his own adventures in their studios. But I'm just going to I did have a bit highlighted, but I've totally lost it. But what I'm going to say is, John, Morales is a hugely popular character, and I think the multiverse being as open and as flexible as it can be, we're already talking about possibly Tobey Maguire making a kind of an appearance as a version of Spider-Man as well, perhaps Andrew Garfield as well. So the possibilities are there, and I think this is probably the way to introduce this character into this cinematic sort of live action. And then from there, Sony can then take the character into their Sony universe or Sonyverse, whatever you call it. And I think it's a good way of setting up.
Even I think it'd be fantastic. I'm well on board for this. I'd love to see Miles Morales hit the big screen in a live action format. I says that I'd prefer it to be Sony who actually done it, so they could just forget about Peter Parker and let Tom Holland stay in the MCU. They can have their separate variation of the Spider-Man character, and he's a really cool and different take on the Spider-Man character. He's a sort of more urban, cool version. Peter Parker's a bit of a gonk. He's a bit of a goof. There's something about him. He's not that cool. And even Tom Holland's portrayal, he's not that cool. I mean, he ain't cool. You see when he hangs around with the school sort of friends, he's not that cool a character. Miles Morales is a more traditional cool kid, and he brings that different edge to it, and you've seen it in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It was a very cool character, a very cool movie for that difference, and we're now seeing him stepping on to the sequel to the Spider-Man game, which is hitting the PlayStation. So he's certainly in vogue, this character, and I can't envisage Sony and maybe Marvel Disney by connection not having something in mind for this character, because he'd tick all of the sort of check marks that a Black Panther ticked too. He would be very attractive to the minority black community. That was a zeitgeist movie for a completely different reason, of course, just the fact it was celebrating African culture and African American culture, and it was an all black cast. This would probably be different, but you can't have enough diversity within the MCU. You just can't. And I'm all for seeing this character. He's such a cool, likeable character, and if it so transpires that he pops up in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Sam Raimi, man. I
was going to say, John,
the Spider-Man connection.
He's brave enough to do it. I'll give him that.
And he knows the character. He knows the inner machinations of the character. So I can't think of a better director to come in and handle the introduction of Miles Morales. I'd love it, man. I can't wait to see this movie for a whole multitude of reasons. Who's going to flit in and out? It's sort of their Flashpoint, the MCU, where it's going to tackle different multiverses. We're going to have strange antagonists coming in and out. I can't recall which the one it's called. There's an antagonist. I can't recall. It doesn't even matter. I'll never get it. Not a big reader of the comics, as we've admitted time and again, so I've not got that lore in my brain like a great John Schnepp or something. But you're going to have a colourful array of different characters coming in. You're going to have Benedict Cumberbatch helming it. Cannot wait to see it, man. I'd love...
Elizabeth Olsen's
going to be in there for sure. And yeah, man, if we get Tom Holland coming in and perhaps meeting a Miles Morales live action character, and if it does open up the door for him to perhaps either come into the MCU or maybe we get a vision and then he pops over to the Sony Spider-Verse. That's a great way to interconnect those. We had an actor, Stephen, speaking about how they are interconnecting it. There's rumours that we will see the likes of Morbius and Venom popping over.
I hope we do, John.
Coming back and forth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rumours that could be part of the new Tom Holland deal.
It's amazing, John, because you're only talking perhaps maybe a decade ago, Sony and Marvel were so far apart.
Yeah.
And you look at it now, if what you're saying is true and it does happen, it shows how far these two studios have came into working together in harmony and for the benefit of each studio, because both studios have already benefited from Spider-Man appearing in Civil War was the first appearance, wasn't it? And then obviously the Homecoming, Far From Home,
the two Avengers.
Infinity War and Endgame, and both studios have benefited from it. So Sony have to be commended for putting their sort of pride to the side and thinking business-like and what they can
still
get
directing or making the movie. It's just produced,
distributed by.
And Feige has a guiding hand in producing. So it's commercially it makes sense for the two studios to continue this relationship. We've seen it with Universal, is it, that hold the rights to the Hulk, Bruce Banner. It just makes sense, man. They can both earn out of it monetarily, and we get to see a richly diverse bunch of characters, antagonists, protagonists, different versions of the protagonists coming in, and it's such potential, man, for the MCU as well, where they can go with this. I'd love to see Tom Hardy come over, Jared Leto come over, get a second bite at the cherry of playing a superhero. Guy deserves it, man. He gets shafted on Joker. Wasn't my favourite version, but we've seen a bastardised version of the character, so yeah, I'd love to see it, man. Yeah. Excited for this movie.
Speaking of Joker, John, we're going to move on to Dark Knight news here. Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
Joker wasn't in that one. Should have been. Cameo, but we'll talk about that another day. Yeah, but this is a deleted scene that would have earned the movie an NC-17 rating. Christopher Nolan's third entry in the Dark Knight series almost received an NC-17 rating due to a particularly gruesome death scene which was cut. Now, according to a report from IGN, it appears that Gotham's Deputy Police Commissioner, Peter Foley, played by Matthew Modine, almost met a very brutal end. As fans of the film will recall, the character was killed off in a gun battle against Bane's forces, but as Modine has revealed, the original death scenario for Foley was much different and much more gruesome. Originally planned to be killed by Talia, that's me getting tired now, John. Talia al Ghul's Tumblr. I'm slurring my words now. The death scene was so brutal that if Nolan had kept it in the film's final cut, it would have received a dreaded NC-17 rating, as Modine explained. And this is what he had to say. After Bane dies and Batman, Christian Bale, that doesn't sound right. Christian Bale gets stabbed. Talia gets in one of those vehicles. She starts to drive away, and I'm shooting at her, and I got run over. All it does is it just cuts, and I'm on the ground dead. But it was so violent. The guy that was doubling me got hit by the car. They put a plexiglass thing on the front of the car, and he got hit.
We have to take out the posters.
Yeah.
Because they reflect the light terribly, man.
They had ropes to pull him into the air, but went up and they dropped him from about 15 feet. And the sound of his body hitting the cobblestone street in front of the New York Stock Exchange, it was sickening. And I remember that I looked at Christopher Nolan when he shot it, and his face was white. He was like, okay, let's move on. We got that. But it was like, oh my God, is that guy going to get up? Is he okay? But Nolan said that if he would have put it in the movie, it would have got an NC-17 rating because it was so violent. It would have been probably the most memorable scene of the film, John.
That would have said something as well, because that would have been a great follow-on for that sort of truck scene in The Dark Knight, which when it flipped over. But this time it's a human body. It's going up and banging. That would have been amazing. It would have been a memorable end for the character too.
Yeah.
Well, a lot better than what we got, but they're right, dreaded. No one wants that rating, man, because it restricts the demographics you can get in the theatres, and that in turn restricts the amount of money you can earn. But man, there was so much violence in that movie anyway. It was alluded to. You obviously had the Ben Mendelsohn little wimp character.
Yeah.
Do you think this gives you power?
Yeah.
Do you feel in control? He snaps his
John
neck.
Daggett,
You hear it?
Yeah.
You hear his neck snap. You don't see it. So there's enough visual and audio cues to let you know that there's brutality happening. And then obviously the classic Christian Bale Batman scene broke your mind. No, broke your body. It's the way he says it. Your body.
Your body.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy, man, I love the guy. What a guy. What an actor.
What I will say, John, is I think Matthew Modine's character was memorable in this film. His death was very underplayed. I understand the reasons for it. His death
was underplayed.
Yeah, we can talk about that as well. But I do remember it. I just thought we didn't really see much of how that happened there. It was more just a case of there was a bit of a collision, the sound, etc., and then you see him lying on the floor.
In fairness, they had a nuclear warhead, and there was a reveal of Talia, and
there was a lot more going on. There was, but just for the character itself, I just thought it was a bit underplayed. But you're right, John. This film has so many issues for me, and that was one of them. Was Bane's sort of demise?
Yeah,
it was such a
underwhelming.
I did. I really wanted Batman to take him out, and I just felt that.
I suppose it gave something for the Catwoman character.
Yeah, I suppose, but it was very underwhelming.
It's just disrespectful to him as well. It's like, no, you're not the main big bad. It's Talia al Ghul who's been puppeteering the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now we don't need you. There you go. Just blast you with a sort of bat motorbike thing. That's you. You're done.
You're done.
Disappointing. But hey ho, it is what it is. It ended well.
Yeah.
Got the great
your
ambiguous.
Tease out,
yes, the tease out. Your pan breed, as we like to say over here. But yes, that's going to round up the show, Stephen. It all ended well. We got the great Christopher Nolan ambiguous, a bit of ambiguity at the end of it. Did he survive, or was it all a dream? We started off with Dreamlike Escapes, you speaking about how you were in a permo.
Yep.
We went into WandaVision breakdown, Dreamlike Escapes, and we're ending on Dreamlike Escapes from the mind of the great Chris Nolan. But look, guys, that's going to round up the show. What is your thoughts on the WandaVision trailer? Did it intrigue you? Were you enveloped into this madness, this world that Scarlet Witch has created around her? What's your thoughts on where that can go potentially? Did you like the little Easter eggs? Are you enjoying what they're doing with that TV show? What was your thoughts on Doctor Strange as well, and the potential of Miles Morales coming in there? Do you want to see a Passion of Christ Resurrection, a sequel to that movie? Do you think Mel Gibson's so controversial that it would just flippity flop? Yes, I'm doing that. That was brave of me at this point in the night. That could have went horrendously wrong. And what's your thoughts on Fantastic Beasts? Beasts, not Beats, being back in production and it being very different. No intercourse involved. What's your thoughts on any of the topics anyway? You can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I gulped there. There's a lot of talking. And if you do, that's precisely what you'll get, guys. You'll get more content like this, more movie news, trailer breakdowns, movie reviews, movie reactions, trailer reactions I should say, and everything in between. But look, until then, bye-bye.